I sort of want to like take a step back to high school to talk about like unhealthy environments. So I went to a all boys private school in Toronto. So it's obviously like a bunch of boys, like fairly conservative attitude, and like masculine pressures that everyone's trying to perpetuate their manhood and everything. So being a young, like grade 9 or 10, dealing with their own sexuality issues, I sort of tried to perceive what people's perceptions of like people being gay and stuff were in our school. And I remember there was this kid a year above us who came out as gay on Facebook, and everyone knew that like he was the only kid in the entire school that was openly gay. And no one really would bully him to his face, but like people would always make jokes about him, and like his name would be like involved in sort of like a little joke. Like they'd kind of turned into a verb or whatever to make a joke. So I kind of had a bad perception of what people thought about it. And that kind of made me really cynical about how it would be in society generally. So I was very worried and started to build up barriers for myself. And I mean, it wasn't really one of the initial reasons I got into lifting weights, but like it definitely was like sort of a side benefit of it, because immediately once you become sort of a more muscular person, people disassociate you with anything like other than very like heteronormative masculine values and features. So I did that, and then I also like there was a time where we were in class, and like I also figured like if I pretend to be somewhat against like gay marriage and stuff, it was gonna seem like I'm really straight. So like there was a time where I spoke out in class, and we were having a debate about it, and I spoke like very much against it, and like I was like arguing with these people about it and stuff. And the teacher said to me, he's like, you know, a lot of people that are like that act homophobic actually have like homosexual thoughts in their head, and like that's why they're being homophobic. So it was just a very like unhealthy environment for me, and I put up a lot of barriers and stuff. And like him saying that really stuck with me as like I dealt with coming to terms with myself later in life. So it's just, that sort of just speaks to my view on like, I think unhealthy environments really lead to people having like misperceptions about how it is in society, because most people you do discuss it with, it ends up being okay. And like a lot of people that joke about it, even if you did, like once you talk to them, you realize that they're actually more liberal than you'd expect even on it. And then I guess the next thing would just be, as someone that's like I power lift, and I'm sort of like a walking stereotype in terms of assumptions about sexuality, assumptions about being a mean person or like an asshole and stuff. So that's like another entire realm that I'm very interested in terms of masculinity. Because a lot of people just assume you're going to be an asshole. They assume you're going to like always be trying to put people down and stuff, and then it's like you almost have to work twice as hard to kind of negate that and like show that you're actually like understand masculinity issues, and like that you're actually not just like an asshole and like have a huge ego and stuff. So yeah, like I'm kind of an interesting case in that like I'm involved in like the most manly thing, stereotypically manly thing, and then I'm also like I have very different opinions on it than like one might expect. So yeah, like I never had to defend my masculinity once I started lifting weights, so it kind of served me well, and like it still does serve me well. I've never had to defend my masculinity to anyone, but at the same time, like I always have to work that much harder to prove that I'm not an asshole, and like to prove that that I have like informed opinions or like liberal opinions on these things. So that's sort of like my slight little rant or whatever. I don't know. I don't really know what else to say, but yeah, if you have a question.
I think that's really interesting. We're talking about the ladders, and this is kind of, I feel like, an example of how, you know, if let's say you're at the top of one ladder, people might just assume because if you displayed hypermasculinity that you're automatically mean, aggressive. You've got all these other toxic kind of traits. And so you get put at the bottom of the kind of being kind, being a nice individual that people want to get to know, people want to meet, that kind of ladder. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword in a lot of ways, just even having these sort of ladders. So just to kind of broaden the topic a little bit, is anybody here still playing sports at all? Like, raise your hand, show of hands if you're getting involved in a few sports. Is anybody here in a locker room style sport still? 2 guys over there, 3rd guy over there. What do you guys? I wrote one of the questions in the cards is, what is that locker room environment like? Do any of you guys have any thoughts on the locker room environment at all? Or the family kind of aspect of sport? No one has any.
It's a different dynamic in every locker room for sure. I found playing sports before I got here was actually more of an issue in the locker room than it is now. And I think it might have something to do with now I get to choose my teammates, and I kind of know what they're like and kind of able to trust them like that. And I mean, there is still a little bit more, I guess you're talking about the classical masculinity involved in the locker room, but I don't think it's a toxic kind of masculinity at all. I think it's it's okay to be that kind of masculine as well, as long as you're not being negative about it. And I think that's kind of what we get there. We like to play loud rock music, and we also we like to play One Direction in our term too. So it's just depends on every team's different, right? And I don't. I saw it especially before playing sports and growing up. I think holding on to that masculinity was a lot more important. But I think now that we've all kind of gotten there, I think it's become less of an issue. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but
it's really cool.
Yeah, well, but Ben, you brought up a really great point about sort of our bodies and our perception of who we are and what we think with our body. And I went to school, I was very rugby focused, and the girls' rugby team, a lot of those girls were often very criticized as you're more masculine, and by virtue of that, you're maybe not as much of a sweet girl or a kind person. And I'm just wondering from both sides of that, maybe with dance, if a girl is a bit more masculine, is that seen as a bad thing, or on not masculine, I shouldn't say that, but if she's not you're what you think is feminine, how we conceptualize that, in in that sports culture, how do our bodies say something about who we are? How do we unpack that?
I don't know, I find within the QDC community, I've never really encountered that from the masculine perspective, but I know this is kind of switching gears a little bit from what the point is. But I find with girls especially, someone's oh, she's a dancer, she can't be spunky and things like that, and she can't do this and she can't do that because she's fragile, she dances, that's it. So I don't know, I think that maybe that perception is there on the masculinity terms as well, as if someone walks into the studio and they don't look like the stereotypical dancers, someone may think, oh, what's going on here? I mean, I can't speak for what's going on in the minds of other people, and I've never encountered it personally or heard conversations about that or anything, but I mean, I definitely think that that's, if not in the Queens community, then that is something that is around within the dance world, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people associate strength and stuff with masculinity, which I don't really think is a fair association. I mean, I know a lot of females that compete in powerlifting, and they're stronger than most men, and there's nothing masculine about them. It's not something that makes you masculine, and I don't think my masculinity is changed at all by the fact that I do that. But I mean, I think people's perception of people that do things like that is that you're either more masculine or you're trying to be more masculine.
Oh no, I just want to go back to what Rory was saying with the locker room environment. I relate to what Ben was saying, or your experience at least. I went to an all-male Catholic high school, and when I played basketball a long time ago, or it feels like a long time ago, there was a moment where I remember when, I guess when you're talking about the locker room experience, we were taught to be very intimidating, or try to be very, all right, let's get rowdy, let's get pumped up, let's start chanting and be in a circle, be huddled, and I remember the games they just go, and they started getting crazy. Started getting in this little, let's go out there and let's get tough. That was kind of like the vibe we wanted to talk about. But I remember one time after, I think before a game, I remember just not feeling, I wasn't feeling like riled up. I just wanted to focus, be quiet. I remember one of my teammates, much bigger than I was, he was like, let's go, let's get amped. And I didn't know how to respond to that. I was trying to get into my zone. I was just trying to, think about the game plan. I was just trying to, do me. And I remember one of my teammates, it wasn't for him to stand up for me and say, hey, he's just trying to trying to get into the zone. He's just doing it in a different way that's not like, how we do it in football or how we do it in rugby. But I find that at my high school, at least, it was very, like, every sport was kind of coached the same. It was kind of that same environment at an all-male high school. And I kind of want to see what everybody else has to say about, high school sports and their high school experience, playing sports or in that culture. Because I know, being at an all-male high school was very, it was very hyper-masculine. It was very, you have to beat the other team. We can't lose. And I love playing basketball, and I think that basketball is always a way to de-stress and to focus on, refocus on certain things in my life. And I never use sports as a way to, prove my masculinity, I think. But looking back at it now, I think when I was in grade 9 coming in, I wanted to, be accepted. I wanted to find a family. I wanted to find a home. And being on the basketball team in grade 9, it felt that I felt accepted. I felt with all the other athletes, all the other guys, I was accepted. I was deemed an athlete. So it was okay for me to hang out with them. It was okay for me to, be one of the guys. And but then it also seems like, when we're part of a team, you're part of a sports culture in that high school. You were accepted to a brotherhood. I don't know about your school. We always talked about that brotherhood feeling. Playing sports is we're part of something bigger than us. So I just wanted to chime into that.